Right now, you know exactly what time it is. You glance at your phone without even thinking about it. Now imagine not knowing. Not knowing if it's noon or 3. Not knowing how long you've been walking, or how long until the sun drops and the things that hunt in the dark come out. For most of human history, that wasn't a hypothetical. That was every single day. There was no 9 a.m., no back in 5 minutes, just the sun moving across the sky and your best guess. So how did we go from that to a device so precise it can measure a billionth of a second? It took thousands of years, a few obsessed monks, and one very annoying problem: nobody could agree on what time even meant. Let's get into it. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Early humans didn't need a clock. Not at first. You wake up when it's light. You eat when you're hungry. You hunt when the animals are moving. Time wasn't a number. It was a feeling: hunger, light, tiredness, the moon changing shape. That worked fine for one person. It falls apart the second you're trying to run a society. How do you get 50 people to show up for the same ritual? How do you know when to plant crops before the rain season? Or when a debt is due? Or how long a guard should stand watch before someone relieves them? The moment humans started living in groups big enough to need coordination, they had a problem. And the sky was the only tool they had to solve it. Look up. That's it. That was humanity's first timepiece. The sun rises, climbs, and falls every single day, in a pattern you can actually track. And someone, thousands of years ago, noticed something simple. Shadows change length and direction as the day goes on. That observation became the sundial. Some of the earliest known versions show up in Egypt more than 3,500 years ago: a stick in the ground, or a stone with notches, casting a shadow that crept across marked lines as the day passed. It sounds primitive. It wasn't. It was the first time in human history that a person could look at a shadow and say, with real confidence, it's mid-afternoon, without a single word being spoken. But the sundial had one massive, embarrassing flaw. The sun goes down, and the second it does, your fancy new timekeeping device is completely useless. No shadow, no sun, no time. You're back to guessing, exactly like before humans invented anything at all. Cloudy day? Same problem. Sundials only work when the sky cooperates. Humans needed something that didn't depend on the weather, or the sun, or anything they couldn't control. And the answer they landed on was strange, clever, and required almost no technology at all: water. Picture a bowl with a tiny hole in the bottom, floating in a bigger container of water. Water leaks in at a steady rate. As it fills, it sinks, and the speed it sinks at is predictable enough to mark time by. This is a water clock, or clepsydra, if you want the fancy name, and it shows up independently in Egypt, Babylon, Greece, and China, sometimes over 1,000 years apart. Different cultures, same problem, same solution. And it wasn't just a curiosity. Water clocks were used to time speeches in Greek courts, so long-winded lawyers couldn't talk forever. They were used to organize prayer times. They were used to time military watches, so a soldier knew exactly how long he had to stay alert in the dark. For the first time, humans had something close to what we'd recognize today. A clock that worked at night, worked in the rain, and didn't care if you were paying attention or not. But it still wasn't precise. And somebody, somewhere, wasn't going to settle for close enough. Here's a twist you probably didn't expect. Some of the biggest leaps in clock technology came from people trying to pray on schedule. Medieval monasteries ran on a strict routine of prayers, several times a day, at specific hours, day or night, rain or shine. Missing one wasn't just embarrassing. It was treated as a failure of discipline. So monks needed something more reliable than a sundial and less messy than a water clock. And by the late 1200s, mechanical clocks driven by weights, gears, and a ticking mechanism called an escapement started showing up in European monasteries and cathedral towers. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, it had already happened once before. In 11th century China, an engineer named Su Song built an enormous astronomical clock tower powered by water, but using mechanical gears so advanced that some historians consider it one of the earliest true clockwork systems on Earth, centuries ahead of anything in Europe at the time. Different continents, different reasons, same obsession: pin time down once and for all. Once mechanical clocks showed up in towers and town squares, something changed that nobody fully saw coming. Time stopped being personal. It stopped being roughly midday or somewhere around sundown. A bell would ring, and everyone in town heard the exact same signal, at the exact same moment. Markets opened on a schedule, workers showed up on a schedule. Entire towns started operating like a single machine, instead of a few thousand people all guessing independently. That single shift from time is a feeling to time as a number everyone everyone agrees on, is arguably one of the most underrated inventions in human history. It didn't just tell people what time it was. It rewired how humans organized their entire lives. So next time you glance at your phone without even thinking about it, remember that for most of human history, that simple glance didn't exist. People built their entire day around a shadow on the ground, then around water dripping through a hole, then around monks so determined to prey on time that they accidentally invented one of the most important machines humans have ever made. The clock on your wrist, on your phone, on the wall behind you, it's not just a tool. It's the end result of thousands of years of humans refusing to keep guessing. And the wild part, we're still not done. We've gone from shadows to atomic clocks precise enough to lose 1 second every 300 million years. And here's something wild you've probably never thought about. Why is it 60 minutes in an hour and not 100 like everything else we measure? Blame the Babylonians. Around 4,000 years ago, they used a counting system based on the number 60 instead of 10, because 60 divides evenly by so many numbers. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, 20, 30. It made fractions and calculations way easier than our base 10 system ever could. That number system got baked into how they tracked the sky, and eventually into how they divided the day. Later civilizations borrowed it, refined it, and never really let go, which is why, thousands of years after the Babylonians disappeared, you're still setting an alarm for 6:45 instead of some clean, modern base 10 number. Every clock you've ever owned is quietly running on math from a civilization that's been gone for millennia. If this changed how you look at something as ordinary as checking the time, here's one last thing to sit with. The clock didn't just tell time. It changed how humans thought about time itself. So the next time an alarm goes off or a meeting starts on the dot, remember, you're not just following a schedule. You're living inside an invention that quietly rewired how every human on the planet experiences a single day. Hit subscribe if this messed with your head a little, because next time we're covering the invention that came right after the clock, one that humans built specifically to make sure nobody could ever lose track of it again. See you in the next video.